Well, hello and welcome to the Photo Brigade podcast. I'm Robert Kaplan. Today, I have my friend Laura Roumanos with me. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Good morning.
I'm good. Well, thank you for joining us on this rainy, ugly New York City day. Yeah. But I'm really happy to have you here so we can talk about all the things that you've got going on. I should preface this by saying we're not here to talk about your photography, which is what most of my guests we talk about, but you run an organization called United Photo Industries.
That's right.
And we will get more into that, but you run all sorts of really amazing events like Photoville underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, which we'll talk about. You have galleries, you have the fence, and so many other very, very cool things that you do for the photo industry. So before we do that, I just wanted to give a quick shout out, say thank you to Adorama for letting us use their event space all these Fridays for our panels and events and so on. Thank you to Canon Professional Services, thank you to Tenba Bags, and thank you to Lacey for your partnership. All right, so now that that's out of the way, we can chat about
the most important bit, though.
Well, you know,
wouldn't be doing it.
They help out, as you know. You know, you got to find these folks that'll help us out.
Absolutely.
So anyway, so let's talk about you. First of all, as folks might have caught by your accent, or my accent, whatever, is that you're from Australia.
Yes, I'm Australian.
So can we talk a little bit about your transition coming to New York City? Getting involved in the photo world, not being a photographer yourself, and what it's like to essentially be an event planner and promoter. Because I'm one of those too now with the things that I do here.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I tell you what, it's a whole lot of work.
Yeah, there's a lot of bags under my eyes due to that. So honestly, my background, and people kind of are really taken aback by this when I tell them, my background is in theatre and music. So I grew up in Australia, and the last few years of me being in Australia, I actually attended the National Institute of Dramatic Art, which is an amazing institution. I trained under for technical production, for producing. Kate Blanchett, Geoffrey Rush, Mel Gibson, all the great Australians you see, Baz Luhrmann, all graduated from this institution. Wow. And so I moved here nearly 12 years ago and started working at the Manhattan Theatre Club, which is probably one of the most premier non-profit Broadway theatre companies. And I worked in their general management department.
Oh, okay. So you ran it.
I didn't run. No, I didn't run.
No.
Believe me, there is a lot more heading. But I came over and worked in the GM department, assisting and kind of like writing contracts, dealing with a lot of administrative things. It was a really great crash course on how this city works, especially when it comes to unions and how things are really expensive. And it's funny because everyone always asks us, can you do Photoville somewhere else in around the world or what have you? And doing something in New York is more expensive than anywhere else, and more complicated.
I agree with you.
Yeah, and so you know, my background in Australia was producing events, comedy shows, theatre, music, everything. And one of the wonderful things about NIDA is that it taught me how to light a show, how to actually set up sound equipment and a band. Budget, contracts, and so that really helps as a producer. You need to know these things. And then after MTC, I actually went over to St. Anne's Warehouse, the most amazing, who is still my theatre family. If no one knows about this, please look them up. It's one of the most amazing performance venues in New York City, if not the world. And I was the general manager there for many years, producing theatre, music, really large-scale theatre and music projects. And one of the events that we hosted was the New York Photo Festival, and that is how I met Sam and Dave, my partners with UPI.
Wonderful,
so people ask, how did you even get together? Dumbo, Brooklyn is a really unique neighborhood. It still is, even though everything's gentrifying around this city. It still has a lot of artists and a lot of really great creative institutions, and it was special. And so meeting those guys, definitely a game changer in my life.
Yeah.
And after St. Anne's, I went over to Creative Time, a wonderful nonprofit public art organization, as their senior producer, producing, again, a lot of large-scale public art projects. So moving away from theater, but working with a lot of visual artists and activists. You know, I worked with Tanya Bruguera, Trevor Paglin, Bruce High Quality Foundation, Tom Sachs. So that was, again, a great learning curve. So while towards the end of my tenure at Creative Time, Sam and Dave decided they wanted to start their own company because they were really feeling that, especially working at the New York Photo Festival, they were feeling that there were all these really amazing talent out there, but not enough platforms. So they created United Photo Industries. I was a little like, what is this name and logo? And
we're going to throw up some pictures as we talk about this now, okay?
And it was back in 2011 when so this is our new gallery that you're seeing right here. But back in 2011, Two Trees, when we formed United Photo Industries, took a chance on us and gave us this amazing gallery space in Dumbo. And because of that, we were able to really produce really amazing shows. Our first show that we produced was this crazy idea that Dave came up with, was 7/7, which was 7 photographers in 7 days. So we actually put up a show every day over 7 days, threw a party every day. But like most new companies, we were getting hundreds of people every day for a week. And so that was our introduction to the world.
Yeah.
Also around that time, we actually joined, and I'll talk a bit about this later, with the Dumbo Arts Festival, but that was kind of the start of Photoville, which was multiple containers on Main Street in Dumbo, and that was kind of the birth of Photoville, which I'll talk about. But for the last 7 years, while we've been building UPI, it has not been my day job. So I've been producing, for the last 7 years, I've been working with the amazing World Science Festival, a great festival, a freelance producer. I was their director of operations for several years. Last year, I was their line producer, spearheading programming for them. Because we all know, especially as photographers, just working in the arts in general, you have to have a job that pays the bills.
Right, absolutely. So, so you got a lot of experience working for organizations that weren't necessarily in the photo world.
No.
But running an event is running an event, whether it's photo related or not. You know, typically the same sort of things are needed. Great talent, great, you know. Just
I always say telling a story is telling a story. So whether it's photography or it's music or theater, you have to have the same skill base to put on that. So honestly, Robert, if you wanted to put on a music show or a theater production, you can do that because you have been able to put all of these other things together. So it's pretty simple. So the last 7 years, in addition to World Science Festival, again, a life-changing project for me was working with the legendary Karen O of the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and I produced for Vice her big rock opera in Brooklyn, which was really massive. It was wonderful, and we toured that to Australia, to the Sydney Opera House, which was a really lovely homecoming for me. I also worked for the Brooklyn Youth Chorus on many projects, produced their galas, and we produced a big show at the Brooklyn Academy of Music with Bryce Dessner from the National and Reed Parry from Arcade Fire. Also the last few years I was a senior producer for Future Storytelling, an amazing festival and summit focusing on immersive storytelling. So VR, AR, everything. So again, I really love storytelling, and something that I've become so passionate about. I feel like I've gotten my PhD in photography just in the last 7 years of just we've worked with the best of the best.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I mean, just going to Photoville last year was amazing. So speaking of, let's move into some of these photos so that people can have a visual idea. So we've looked at some of these photos already.
This is our current gallery on at 16 Main Street in Dumbo.
And then this is a bit of a low res photo, but gives you an idea of the fence. Right.
Our photo fence in Brooklyn Bridge Park, but I think we can keep moving forward. So our fence has grown starting in 2012 in Brooklyn Bridge Park, and we moved to Boston, Atlanta, Houston, Santa Fe. This is in Atlanta on the Beltline. We just announced yesterday we're adding Sarasota. So there's and we'll be announcing another city next week. So
Cool.
it's really,
We'll
it's really
that,
grown,
yeah.
and that's millions of people seeing this work. This is Claire Rosen, a gallery show that we're just finishing up in the gallery. We've had it in the gallery for a few months.
Nice.
Now, Gilbert, he's our mascot. He's amazing.
Dog
Claire,
level pictures. That's great.
Claire is, really special. I mean, we get really invested in the artists we work with. Probably not a good idea, but I mean, at the end of the day, if we don't like the people we're working with, what's the point? Especially
Right.
because we are doing other things. The opening was fantastic. I mean, one of the best we've had.
Lots of familiar faces
Yeah.
I'm seeing also.
Oh, no, we won't go that. Jamel Shabazz, Jamel has been in our lives for the last few years. He's been part of group shows. We asked him to curate an opening of Photoville a few years ago. And then we showed his work in a gallery last year. The Fence in Boston.
So the fence, first of all, what are you printing on here? This is like a professional
Vinyl mesh.
And is it all one piece, or is that a bunch of tied together?
It's several. I mean, we can't really go beyond 100 feet. So like in Brooklyn Bridge Park, it's 1,200 feet.
Oh, wow.
And it's separated. And, the way that we work is that these are construction fences. They're temporary spaces. It's outdoor. It's in the public. You have to evolve with the space. And people I think don't appreciate the amount of wrangling, working with city agencies, parks. There are so many stakeholders. And also, we spend so much time measuring and designing and printing. You show up at the space and the construction guys move the fence. So we've had a lot of interesting situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long did it take you to find a printer to make it look nice on these?
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So let me tell you, can we plug? So we've been working with Degal since the beginning. And so Lauren Wendell of PDN, when we had just these ideas about the fence and Photoville, not even really a name, Lauren Wendell literally came on board and said, I'm going to help you. So she introduced us to Mr. Degal, Baldev Degal, who was like the Baldev Degal, who... that was a really special meeting, and he said, I'm going to help you with this. Believe me, they don't print it for free, but they give us a very generous discount. And let me tell you, people from all over the country say, oh, we can print vinyl on mesh. Let us send you something. Oh, I'll talk about that.
We'll talk about it in a minute. Yeah.
Let us send you something. And still, when something has to be up for several months and it's mesh, these guys are the best.
Okay, yeah, because it has to stand the test of weather and all the sun.
We've gotten really friendly with their team in the Navy Yards. Let me tell you.
And what do you do?
What
do you do with all of these? I mean, imagine after it's done, you just roll them up and store them, or do you give them to the? So
we email the artists and go, on these days, you can come to Brooklyn and come pick up your piece. Or we can destroy them, or you can donate them.
Okay.
We've actually been looking into, we have a few other fence projects that aren't the fence. So we actually do a lot of projects, which I'll talk a little later, that we actually commission photographers. We pay them. We actually have funding. This is a tricky situation with the fence. And the reason why we love it is because all of these parks, these public spaces, have to agree blindly to this exhibition because it is a competition. And so they're basically agreeing to show this work that they have no idea what they're agreeing to.
Put up, yeah.
And like even with the Sarasota folks, I was like, guys, just so you know, you really don't know, and like you're agreeing to this without knowing. But please see the last 6 years. There is no graphic nudity or violence. Know from the past projects what this could look like.
Right.
And so it's a real testament to all of our actual partners, our venue partners, that they believe in the power of this storytelling. Because they're not, a lot of them aren't pretty photos.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
there's some hardcore journalism and
yeah, I mean,
distressing stories. And
a few years ago, we had Paula Bronstein's her Afghani burn victims.
Oh man, yeah.
And no one had a problem. And actually, it was really powerful to see families, especially, like kids coming up and asking questions. And actually, something that we're going to be starting this year is we're actually having family workshops with local families, talking about how to talk to your kids about these photos. I think it's really important. I mean, if you're making these pictures, who are they for? And that's something I always tell. I always tell our artists is, who's your audience? Who is your audience for this? Is it the photo community, which it could be, or is it students, or is it this particular demographic, is these people living here? So it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So let's move on.
Yeah. We also just installed the fence in Calgary, minus 19 degrees. So this is Sam Barzilay, our creative director and co-founder. And this is Dave Shelley, our creative producer. These guys are out in the elements. But again, it's Calgary, Canada. We went international. It's still up for the next few months. And this is a lot of high traffic. We're a little skeptical, and they're like, no, people go through this every day.
Every day. I mean, it's someone's commute, right? So another thing is, I mean, I'd imagine in an environment like this, you get snow on the actual display too. You got to think about how to clean it off sometimes.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We have great so again, it's our partners on the ground, so they have to agree to be able to upkeep them.
Right.
Obviously, tighten up the corners, clean. I mean, look, knock on wood, in the last 7 years of doing these public projects, probably only a handful of vandalism.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that is a real indication of people do respect these stories.
And here you can actually see the different spots.
Yeah.
It looks like with this graphic here of where you've had or are going to have some.
It's we're expanding, and next year is going to be
well. You're
quite
going
a few
international
more
with Canada, obviously. Yeah. Have you done any other than Canada internationally?
We've done different. Not this particular photo fence. Again, it's really hard. So this is our superheroes fence, which this is one of our commissions working with the Department of Transport and also the Dumbo Business Improvement District. So. This is actually back in 2012, and we had it up for 2.5 years.
Wow.
But it was stories on photographers kind of tackling the superhero myths. So it was fun, and I actually want to go to the next slide because one day we show up, and there is a vinyl print of one of the construction workers. So we've become really close with actually also the workers of the DOT and the bridge workers. And so they decided to do their own, and we sent this back to the artist, and she was loving it so much. I mean, we also, when we work with photographers, and look, these aren't white pristine walls.
Yeah.
You have to give up a little bit of this is going to go out there, and this is now for the public.
Right.
So they're going to do whatever they're going to do, and they're going to respond.
Right.
In certain ways. And these guys were looking at this every day. A lot of these guys are actually, you could see him from the Dominican Republic, but a lot of the guys are either immigrants, people of color, and so they really responded to these.
I remember at one point, this is probably 10 years ago now, there was artwork, or probably still is, in one of the metro stations between, you know how there's those long walks and there's artwork along the walls. Well, somebody had not replaced them, but put something over them that was the same style but like all baby. I don't know what it was, but then the artist responded just like saying, this is wonderful. I mean, that type of thing is sort of like flattery that somebody took the time to, you know, make something go with it and make a statement or whatever.
Yeah. And I know it's like controversial, but it's also the example of, you know, the charging bull and the fearless girl. And I mean, he put this out there. This belongs to the people now.
Right.
And someone, I know it was a commercial thing with the fearless girl, but it does represent something bigger.
Yeah.
And I think you have to sometimes just let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go.
So we also do these fun, for the last few years, we've been putting exhibitions on the New York ferry boats. So that's been for the last 5 years. Our first year we did it, we all got seasick trying to put up the work. The first round of boats, so we had 3 boats every 3 months. So Stephen Mallon, who you probably guys, a great photographer, he's great series on trains being thrown into the ocean. The wonderful Joni Sternbach and her surf tintypes. And we love David Duvalet's work. And this is also us being...
He's amazing.
And this is also one of those situations where we always go, people say you're crazy, and we go, it never hurts to ask. So we didn't have a contact for him, and Sarah Lean at National Geographic has always been a wonderful champion of ours. So we emailed Sarah going, do you mind making an intro? Literally, we emailed him. He emailed us back the photos. He's going, I'm about to go on a dive, so here are the photos you need.
Oh, wonderful.
And so we have this great great series, and it was he was wonderful to work with.
He spoke at school, my school, one time at Ohio University, and just his work blows me away. I'm a licensed scuba diver, though I only go maybe once every 5 years, I don't know. But just the idea of taking such beautiful, and what they have to do to just wait for the moments as well.
Oh,
it's not,
I mean,
it's not easy.
So special. And I think also what was interesting, and I've got this photo, is that we put the photos on the boats, and they had thousands of riders every day. And I think we were getting a lot of emails about him and quite a few other photographers, and this is what we always get, is they see these photos, they never know who takes them.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, this photographer. So it's really wonderful.
So I got a note here on Facebook. Christopher Kern says Jilly Ballistic is the artist. I don't know what that was in reference to.
Oh, which artist?
What
the
I
subway.
saw. Oh, okay. Me, what I was talking about. Okay, got it.
I was like,
Thank
no,
you,
this
Christopher.
is David Duvallay, I'm pretty sure.
Thank you. No, yeah, obviously that was a few minutes ago.
Yeah. But that's been a really great partnership, and again, it's just putting work out there. And so our first year was Drawn to Water, and then we had a Wanderlust about travel, and then New York stories. So that's the last few years. And then a few other projects. So we do a lot of other fences, and this is us putting up the wonderful Nancy Borowick's story. So Nancy came to us last year. Her book was coming out about her parents, who both died a year apart from each other, battling cancer. She had documented it, and she was really looking for a gallery. And we're like, well, look, we're full. And I came back to her and go, look, we love this so much. This is such a universal story.
Yep.
Let's print it big. Let's put it up on Washington Street. Dumbo's now is one of the most heaviest tracking.
There she was.
There she is. So much traffic, especially as Dumbo's growing. There's so many businesses, tourists, people live there. People go there. So it was up all summer. It was up for nearly 5 months. She was getting amazing letters. We were getting letters. The day that we opened, she was having pizza at Front Street Pizza, and NBC had come and interviewed her. So while she was eating pizza, the NBC thing came up, and the guys, these are our guys. These are our, the guys at Front Street Pizza. These are the original Dumbo. There's so many new folks coming in, but these guys have been there since day one. And again, that was a project that we really felt passionate about. We also created a photo cube. We have these photo cubes that we included as part of Photoville last year. And then
that wasn't the first year, was it? It's been a couple years, hasn't it?
Photo cube, we've been doing these for a few years.
I remember seeing some friends of mine posting photos on
the cubes. We've been doing different types. We have emerging photographer cubes, and then general exhibition ones, which we've been doing stuff with the UN.
It's so smart. Every year you sort of see ways that you can evolve and use the space in different capacities, I'm sure, you know.
And cheaply. We try and find the best ways.
I think just how smart it was to use the fence. It's like, well, how can we make a gallery out of just like everyday, you know, distraction or you know, it's kind of ugly fences, you know, you turn them into beautiful works of art.
And like we didn't, it also was one of those situations where it's not like you know, I also love this photo that I'm like introducing Nancy, because my 2-year-old daughter is there playing. I mean, it's definitely
she's working the soundboard.
She's working the sound. Oh, she was obsessed with it, let me tell you. But, you know, I think with the way that we work with everything and the way we put out exhibitions is you've got to take chances and you've got to just go for it. We really started with nothing. Yeah. And I'm telling you, like, nothing. Like, that's why we've been working other jobs and we do the best we can. But what we do have is our friendships, our partnerships, our resources. Yeah. And coming from a theater background and working events, like our first year, I was able to call up St. Anne's, the production manager at the time, good friend, and going, hey, we need chairs. He's like, all right, I got you covered, Go stay. Even last year, with the Newest Americans opening night, which was so amazing, the band, it was an unbelievable Syrian band, played at the end, and they wanted a whirling dervish. And so like, all right, he can whirl on the grass. Like, no, he needs a stage. So literally the day before, called up St. Anne's again going, we need an extra stage.
Goodness.
The guys will come over and just walk it over to the, like, and they did that. And so it's really important, these connections.
I mean, just, making the connections, never burning bridges.
Oh,
and,
never.
And you never know when that person will come in handy to I mean, put those ducks in a row. Yeah. That's how I feel about, you know, always plant the seed with somebody, and you never know what's going to happen in the future. Yeah. That's wonderful. Real. Well, Nancy's she was on our podcast, or my podcast. Yeah. She's also been on a panel here, and she's also a friend. I've worked with her at the Eddie Adams workshop, and her work is amazing. There's nothing much else to be said. She's special, and we've been a champion of her for a while, and I think it's important to keep pushing and following these photographers. That's also what we like to do as well. It's not just about supporting them in one certain time of their career, it's continuously. Yeah. This is another project that we did with the Department of Transport down in the financial district, and we called it New York Outer Borough Stories. So we asked a curator in each outer borough, not Manhattan, to pick a photographer. Paul Moakley, Alice Austenhouse, and also editor at Time. He nominated Christine Olinsky, so it was like her images of Staten Island with like Queens, the Bronx, and Brooklyn. So and these are these temporary boards, or these kind of like advertising boards they had there already?
These are new. This was a new they've been doing them kind of for advertising, but this was a new initiative that they developed a few years ago, and they were using more visual artists, not photographers. And this is also something that's been really exciting, especially with the New York ferryways, the waterways, the DOT parks, is really getting them to understand and value photography. Because a lot of them, there's a lot of sculpture, there's all of the time public art is sculpture, or it's like, you know, a few colors or here, there, it's not stories from, or it's or there is a JR thing, you know. It's really great to be able to put all these out there. This was also a project we do with Doctors Without Borders underneath the archway in Dumbo. We use our neighborhood of Dumbo a lot, but what's been great the last few years, we're also expanding, but we never forget our home. Right, absolutely.
So I was just going to say, I had something on my mind, but I'll come back to it. Okay, so this is a more
this is one of the big things. So a few years ago, World Humanitarian Summit with the United Nations, they invited us to curate 17 large-scale exhibitions about the humanitarian crisis around the world. Liam Maloney, Texting Syria. So this was a real labor of love for us. I literally, end of 2015, I gave birth, and a week later I was at the UN having a meeting with them. This was a big game changer for us, but also I think for photography, because they could have honestly just shown some of the photographs that they commissioned through their UN thing, what they do for brochures and stuff. But Gideon Mendel's Drowning World, this was like larger than life. And it was, and we didn't know at the time, but what a big deal it was that Dave and Sam were able to actually give a tour of all the exhibitions with the Secretary General of the UN. Oh, wow. They had 13 minutes, and it was a packed 13 minutes. But it was important to talk them through, and there was world leaders from all over the world. To talk about this was great. Yeah, absolutely. So, absolutely. We also worked with Nina Berman at NOR. They did this the photographers of NOR did a great project at Zatari refugee camp. She came to us wanting to put up the vinyl banners, and Sam was like, you know what, that's going to go in 5 seconds. How about wheat pasting, when we saw the huge wall? Oh, wow. So he went over to Jordan with Nina, and in 3 days with a whole lot of locals, wheat pasted these photos of life in the Zatari refugee camp.
This is the kind of stuff you did, right, Seth? Yeah. Our Seth over here, who's working the boards, he does this kind of stuff. Also. And it was, and when we showed this work at Photoville, we also showed this work at the UN headquarters here in New York. And the kids, also, they were like, "Oh, I know this person. I know this kid." That was must be surreal.
And it was also the wall that separated all the NGOs in their nice air-conditioned, nice tents to the refugee camp. So it was actually a really great way to bridge them. Right. This is in Geneva. So again, we've been working with the UN on a commission called What We Share. We're halfway through it. So we've been showing these in Germany, Geneva, Tokyo, a few other countries, which this is also Tokyo. So we also co-produced and co-founded the T3 Festival in Tokyo.
Man,
our friends in Tokyo.
I'm like learning so much. It's like I didn't even realize the scope of, I'm asking you, well, do you do anything international? Well, obviously you do.
Yeah, we, and the T3 Festival, we actually next week open an exhibition on the group show that we're going to be taking to Tokyo later this year. But it's an outdoor photo festival. And so that's been so much fun, photos all over the place. And what's so great about working with other partners, especially partners from overseas, is you're learning other ways to show work. It's bamboo. I've
never seen a display like this before. Yeah,
isn't it great?
Yeah, this is a park?
Yeah, it's
cool.
a really big.
And you've done some things in Central Park too.
Yeah,
I know that you did something with Nancy in Central Park.
Yeah, last year to celebrate 50 years of public art.
Yeah.
So we work with the NYC Parks Department. So they invited us to show work, and that was great because we showed our cubes. Nancy was there, did not leave her cube, talked to every single person. But we actually had we had a photo zine workshop. So not only did we have kids, we had adults, and it was great. We were next door to our friends from the High Line. It was fun. This is one of our teacher professional development days, so we're building.
So education is a big thing as well.
Education is huge, and shout out to Jasmine Chang, who's been with us since day one, who's really developed our education program. And so last year we introduced Professional Development Day for teachers, where the teachers worked with artists from Photoville to create lesson plans. So that was a big thing. So this is a really old photo, but I think we're about to start talking about the birth of Photoville.
Birth of Photoville begins now, people.
The birth of Photoville, and Sam, and they're going to kill me for putting this out there. So 7-8 years ago, for the Dumbo Arts Festival, we had 4 containers right outside the park. It flooded, so you can see these guys trying to do everything they can to bring it out. But we had a camera obscura, we had lines out there. ICP took part, and we had just some containers. And the then president of the park, Regina Meyer, saw it and loved it. There's our Eli and Gilbert, and loved it so much that they were like, let's do this in the park. And that's also another container that we had.
So the idea, is that you get these shipping containers essentially, and you have them delivered to that area it's Dumbo, right?
Yeah.
Dumbo, under the bridge area, down under the bridge. That's what it stands for. And then, how is it that I know that it's coming up soon where you're going to be accepting proposals for people that want to display. I'm sure back in these days it was just a couple of these.
We had 4 of them.
You had 4 of them.
And when Regina invited us, we were only supposed to have 20,000 square feet. So we were like 10 containers. We'll do some talks, maybe a nighttime projection. Great. And we really had no money. And then closer to it, they said, you know what? The hotel's about to break ground. We can't do it there, but we can give you space on the Uplands of Pier 3, which is 80,000 square feet.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, we're thinking, beer garden. We had a dog run in our first year. We wanted a skate park. This is about, we'll
get to that in a second.
We had a skate park. Well, and then we scrapped it because of insurance. Insurance,
that's a bit of a liability.
People do not, doing an outdoor event.
Don't want to
in New York City. It's security, security insurance. I don't sleep, and when every year everyone goes, "How are you?" and I'm like, "No one died."
Yeah.
I care so much about safety and people having a good time. We have a great team and a big team. I feel always confident about the programming. I never care about the programming. It's always great. It's the audience. It's the people coming in from the public.
So this one looks like a few years ago then, because this wasn't last year's, was it?
Yeah, this was 3 years ago in 2015. Julian Scher took this one. As you can see, we worked with the legendary Jeanette Beckman and the legendary hip-hop street artist Say Adams and Queen Andrea to create a mashup. So you can see Chuck D and LL Cool J. We have our outdoor projections. The view doesn't get better than that. So that's something.
I don't know if you have any photos moving forward of last year.
We can go back to that.
Okay, go back.
So I want to go and maybe talk from the beginning. We use Legos. That's how we.
That's how you do it.
This is how we plan Photoville.
Wow.
I'm telling you, it's we don't spend thousands of dollars on getting model making, and it's Legos. It does the trick. And it's funny because every time, you know, we partner with Instagram, and I love it. I remember a few years ago, they came to the gallery and they took a photo and they're about to Instagram it to like the world. I'm like, no, because this is when we also play around for positioning, and it changes every day.
Right.
We're like, we don't want a partner to see that and go, that's where they are, because it's going to change.
Yeah.
So that's our model.
And so like your partnership with Instagram,
yeah.
Like how did that develop?
That developed actually starting with Facebook. I mean, Turu was one. I mean, they saw that this was a great public event. We were working with a lot of the photo community. And Photoville is not your typical festival. Most festivals, they usually have one curator or a few. They pick maybe 6 to 10 artists to profile, maybe some group shows. They contact local galleries to take part. There's some talks, but it's not, but that's what it is. And that's amazing. But we're not that. New York City we created and we founded and we're developing Photoville because to actually put on a show in New York City is the rental prices just to rent a gallery for the night can be several thousands of dollars.
Right.
So
nevertheless, if you want to have an extended,
if you want it extended for a few weeks, and then you have a good opening, but then you've got 20 people that may come in during the day, and that's it. But that's all it is,
right.
and it's great. We saw this as a chance to really create a village. We're bringing in electricity.
So let's go back to these photos here.
Todd.
So you guys. Like, first of all, I mean, I can't even imagine how you arranged to get all these shipped to you. But now...
Takes 2 weeks trucked in.
2 weeks to truck all these things.
Julio, our man, trucks them in.
Wow. And then not only that, this last year was the first time I had the opportunity to go and witness it in person. But, I'm expecting, a handful of these scattered around. Last year, you had not only one level, but double deckers. So you doubled them up. And you had, containers on containers, and each one full. So how many total containers did you have last year?
So we had 52. And as you can see, the reason why for the stacking is because we were on the uplands at Pier 5, which was 80,000 square feet. And then, we're a traveling sideshow. We evolve how the park evolved. So they were developing that and then gave us this space under the bridge, which was half the size. But we're growing.
But it's a great location.
Oh, it's the best location. It is so amazing. The foot traffic is ridiculous. And we wanted to do it. So we spoke to the park and said, would you be into it? But we work with an amazing architect, Kim von Dalwig, who is also on our board. Her and her partner have been with us since the beginning. We have structural engineers, insurance broker. We have to go through so many things. Todd, who's our project manager, literally stacks all of these containers himself. And he is, let me tell you, Mr. Safety. You don't want to touch them until he's ready. But it takes 2 weeks to do it. And we do that because we want as many great things as possible. So we had around 50 containers last year.
And then also, generally speaking, so there's your beer garden,
there's
by the way.
Beer garden.
Which was amazing. I mean, look at that setting.
Yeah.
I mean, right? So folks that are watching here, you see the projection screen, and right under there you have a stage. So you have panels, you have talks.
Yeah, we have talks. Like New York
poetry.
Times.
People reading
we
poetry
had poetry
there.
one night. The New York Times, have come in every year and done a really great evening. This, I think, is from the New York Times night. We work with POV, so not only photography entities, but the POV, the wonderful documentary TV show on PBS. They take over a night. We've worked with ESPN, New York Magazine last year with Jody Kwan. I mean, it's been great.
Yeah.
These are, some just behind the scenes. This is our gallery. So our beautiful gallery turns into, for 6 weeks, Photoville headquarters.
Photoville headquarters, and yeah.
Yeah. This is actually a few years ago. This was actually Ann Curry's work. She worked with an AR company.
Oh, really?
So we've been working with really great people.
Yeah, and it's interesting also to see how so walking through the evening that I did, you see such diversity in the way these galleries. It's like going to maybe a few dozen different galleries. I mean, one was set up like a convenience store or something like
ordinary. That was passion.
That was wild.
Yeah.
And it looks like you did some
3D.
We
have an amazing education day. So we have over 600 students from all over the city that come to experience our day. We do tours of at least 20 containers with the artists and curators talking about the work. We have peer panel sessions. So we invite a lot of the after-school photo programs. So the Bronx Documentary Center, the Point ICP, the LGBT Center.
You got Jeffrey
and their
Berliner
kids.
here
Jeffrey Penumbra since day one.
He's great. He's been on the podcast. He's taken my portrait. I used that for my Facebook for, I don't know, a year. That portrait he took of me.
So many people have their profile as the tintype they got from Jeffrey at Photoville.
At Photoville,
from a few years ago.
Because they sell them, and I think it helps fund.
Discounted,
and helps fund what they do at the Penumbra Foundation.
Yeah, and we tell all of our partners and organizations who we work with, this is a great platform for you. This is a marketing opportunity. You're putting your organization, your artists out there to so many people, tens of thousands of people.
And it's also I think I noted. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you walk in, it's a donation, right?
Yeah, it's donation. People keep saying we should be charging. We want to keep it free.
Yeah.
But we're a nonprofit. Photoville costs over $500,000.
Wow.
And
I couldn't imagine,
let me tell you, the contributions that we get for the containers alone only cover 30% of our actual operating costs.
There's a better scene setter for
great?
you. Yeah. Is this from the bridge, or this is?
No, that's on top. Well, I'm not allowed to say where that's from. That just was taken. We just got that taken. That's Julian Scherer.
We'll move on.
We'll just skip to that. This is Kamonge, so a really amazing collective of photographers, of Black photographers here in the US. This is another Instagram exhibition that we did a few years ago with them. They've been great champions of us.
Yeah, and Instagram, I'm sure, helps. I mean, clearly, when they put something out, so many people see it online, and it can drive a lot of traffic and kind of get the conversation started. And especially, it's going to be interesting also, I think, to see, assuming that you partner with them again, and how, because I hear that stories is the way that Mark Zuckerberg had mentioned that stories will probably be in the future how most people use the platforms now to communicate with each other.
Absolutely.
So it'll be interesting to see how you and other folks use Instagram in that capacity.
Yeah, I just want an example. We actually worked with the U.S. Marines last year, and most likely again this year. So they're photographers. They have photographers as part of the Marines. These guys, I mean, it was very special, and I felt really safe having Marines there every day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sure. That's great. Yeah, that's another thing that should be mentioned is that not only the Marines, but I mean the armed services, each division has photo teams and so on. And they really do very much honor them at the Eddie Adams Workshop, and I've worked, and I'm friends with many active duty, Air Force, Army, and so on, and their work is amazing, the stuff that they do.
Oh, this is phenomenal. And we actually met them through Instagram. Instagram made the introduction. That's also been a really wonderful partnership as they keep making really great connections. But it was such a geeky moment. Pete Souza came and spoke at Photoville, and he came to just have a look at the exhibitions, and these guys were geeking out over him. But he was like, this is phenomenal. And so for them to hear someone that they totally admire tell how great their work is was fantastic.
It was interesting. A side note on Pete Souza. I did a podcast with Pete. He was a professor at Ohio University after I graduated, so we kind of became friends afterwards because I'm always involved with them. But I went and visited him for a podcast, and also the White House's first Instagram meetup I got involved with. And because I knew him, I came in and visited with him first, and then the rest of the group came in. And he wasn't originally going to even be part of this Instagram thing, but when everyone came in, they were just like, Pete. And that was one of the first times I think that he's been in a setting where it's people are there to see him, and they're just geeked out to see him.
He's a
and
rock
then
star, right?
yeah, he's a rock star, and he came and he gave a tour, and it's just it's amazing to see sort of how everything's developed with him and his book and so on. And he's doing a lot of talks.
Yeah, he's really gracious, and the talk he actually did with Michael Shaw from Reading the Pictures was amazing. And we're actually going to be releasing that actually in a week or two. So
I'm such a big fan of your beer garden and the food vendors and everything. I keep talking about that. We're going to have a conversation about this afterwards.
It's Smorgasburg. So we're so lucky to be working with the Brooklyn Flea and Smorgasburg folks. Yeah, and Brooklyn Brewery, actually. This was from our first year. Magnum Foundation, Bruce Gilden. These guys set the standard for all of our partners to think outside the box. You couldn't even go into the container. This was contact sheets of Bruce's. We actually took this container and 2 other exhibitions from that year to Sydney, Australia as part of the Reportage Festival. So
I remember...
this is me 37 weeks pregnant.
37 weeks, giving tours. Goodness gracious.
I was running around 16-hour days. I included that because I'm nuts. But it's funny because our 20-year-old, 21-year-old interns who'd work for us were they were so exhausted after 5 hours, but they were like, but the pregnant woman's still going.
Right. I also remember last year it was Ron Haviv, I think, had a trailer, right?
Yay.
And he kind of
Lost Rolls.
It was, and he was on here talking about Lost Rolls a few years back, and that was such a unique experience because you go into his trailer. It was made up, with a dinner table with just photos everywhere, and
so that's a project that we're working with him to continue. And actually, if any of you are in the LA area, Lost Rolls will be as part of the Month of Photography LA in April.
Oh, cool.
And Ron will be there, and Lauren, and a member of our team.
And
Michael's
the concept is he's gone through his old rolls of film that either weren't developed or outtakes and so on. He's got a book that's out.
Yeah, so originally it was his Lost Rolls, but then he actually opened it up to America.
Oh, okay.
So he invited people, and I know he's working with Fujifilm, Photo Wings, and Photo Shelter, and people can send in their Lost Rolls. So they should go to lostrolls.com.
Lostrolls.com.
Yeah, or lostrolls.america.com.
Yeah, I mean, just look how different each of these
this
containers
was,
are.
A real last-minute exhibition. Our response to Charlottesville.
Oh.
So this was a late-night email to Ruddy Roy and Mark Peterson.
See, Mark Peterson, that looks like Ruddy's stuff over here.
I actually, in the subject line was, "This is crazy. You can say no." And they both responded saying yes. And then we reached out to Hilary Swift and Evelyn Hochstein and Nina Berman. And we worked with the Southern Poverty Law Center as well for resources.
Wow.
This is the Instagram Getty container from a few years ago. Just a nice shot.
Yeah, just scene setters and so on.
Our camera greenhouse from our first year. Brazilian artist Andre Feliciano, who literally makes these camera flowers.
That's beautiful. That's
over
so cool.
2000. That was a great Instagram moment.
Oh yeah. Everything's Insta-worthy of these things. But I mean, just look at the layers of everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a lot to do, and you know what we love the most is that people who come to Photoville, it's it's everyone. It's families. People can bring their dogs. We have kids workshops. We have so many different things that people can do. It's one of our cubes.
Emerging photographers?
No, this is our UN. The ones that are like this, that are bigger, are usually things that we curate and produce. But our emerging photographer cubes are a little small, 4x4, that we invite young photographers. A great sports workshop.
Is this separate from Photoville, or is this during Photoville? This is all during Photoville.
So we have a sports photography workshop, and our workshops now, Crystal Grow, who works with
Anthony
us.
Causey? I
think so, yeah.
I recognize
Crystal
that
Grow
silhouette.
has, our workshops used to be like an hour long, and she's like, let's do them longer. It's now quality over quantity. So they're 4 hours long. They're free.
Super cool, yeah.
And we actually even have a product photography workshop in West Elm.
Oh, wow.
So we take over West Elm.
Wow.
We also do, we've inspired a lot of different types of, and we partner with a lot of international. This is the Leiden Photo Festival in the Netherlands, and we send over 20 emerging photographers every year to Leiden.
Cool. That's amazing.
In the Netherlands, and they show their work at Hamburg Triennial. We were there with 11 exhibitions 2 years ago. It's a triennial, so it's every 3 years. They're back this year. and we took work, and that's another.
And
this is the current.
This is last year's. This is last year's, right?
2 years ago, yeah. But
so I mean, just that and current, yeah. So I mean, that's the beautiful setting that I was so shocked to see. And what was really amazing is when I showed up to see it, I saw randomly. I saw a ton of photography friends, of course. But I ran into a client of mine who I just shot that same day at a hospital, like a doctor who just happened to be with his kid walking through. And I ran into, you know, another 2 clients essentially. They were just non-photographers that just were checking it out. It's not just a photography event. People of any background come and check these things out and get inspired.
It's in New York. It's an arts event. We talk about it being a storytelling festival, a visual storytelling festival, because we're trying to think outside the box, and it's finding ways for our partners. And you know, like Bronx Documentary Center, they say they use this for their funding applications, and they've been able to get, you know, volunteers through that. Same thing with a lot of our partners. So we always really encourage people to think more than just showing your photos. It's really about engaging with the community.
So can we show this
You have the
now?
exclusive, Robert.
All right.
This is crazy. I feel so nervous putting it out there.
All right. So it's official now.
I know.
Photoville is returning.
Yeah, Brooklyn Bridge Park at the most amazing people. It is the most amazing park, actually. So even though we're in September, I think our fence will be up throughout the summer, and I think people need to just go hang out there because it's magical. And come visit our gallery.
Yeah.
Because we're there.
Yeah, the gallery's just right there.
Literally
right there.
On Main Street, right at the entrance of Brooklyn Bridge Park. So
right.
We're very, very lucky. But it's definitely... Photoville this year is going to have a lot of the same as previous years, but we're really we're looking towards the future, and looking at people who are change makers, and it's going to be a really interesting, eye-opening year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, have we talked through pretty much everything? I'm sure there's a million other things that you've done.
There's so many.
Because you told me, you're like, how many photos should I send? Because I have thousands. I'm like, well, maybe not thousands.
It's a little daunting. You know, we're small. I think people, they come to the space and they think we're this huge operation. It's only 3 of us year round doing other things. Yeah. Our team is, we're also really lucky. We have a group of people who all have full-time jobs and other freelance projects throughout the year, and then we all come together.
Right.
I mean, we were just last night at, I'm going to do a shout out to Ruffian in the Lower East Side, because Alexis, who used to produce our workshops for us at the very beginning, who now runs our beer garden, owns a restaurant.
Oh, wow.
And she runs a restaurant. Yeah. And, you know, I was talking about Nate, like we have just great people who do amazing things, who keep coming back because they love doing this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, awesome. And last question. Or, I mean, we can go further if you have anything else to say. But another question was, how do people find out how to maybe have a gallery in your space, get on the fence, get a container, and be involved with you and your United Photo Industries?
So a few things. We've got a few things kind of up in the air right now, and if you go to UPI to unitedphotoindustries.com, you can see all the opportunities. Not only do we have the fence open call, which is ongoing, we are also working with the Four Freedoms Park on Roosevelt Island on an open call there. We're about to actually announce an amazing grant with our friends at Visura.
Cool.
That will be actually tomorrow that we're announcing that.
We'll make sure to help get the word out about that.
Oh, yeah, that's really great. And I love these guys. I mean, they've been family and friends for a very long time. And then also next week, we'll be also releasing all the teacher lesson plans that we developed and announcing our Education Day and our Teacher Development Day.
Awesome.
We're actually having one in the spring. So if any of you who know teachers in the city who would like to come and work with us. And then for Photoville, we'll be announcing proposals to submit your proposals next week. So you can go onto photoville.com, you can sign up and get the e-blasts. So there's a lot going on.
Awesome. Well, Laura, I really appreciate you coming. I should give you a cheers because we had our tea today.
Yes.
You had Earl Grey. I had
Earl Grey.
something else.
What did you have?
I think it's a rooibos.
Oh. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not Earl Grey.
It's not Earl Grey. You're the fancy one. And I look forward to hopefully collaborating with you in the future and finding out more about everything that you're doing. And I certainly will see you again at Photoville.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Thank you.
Laura, it was wonderful talking.
Thank you.
We'll see everyone again next time. Thanks again to Adorama, to Canon Professional Services, Temba Bags, and Lacey for all of your support. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Boom, we got it.